Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to go back to just what I consider traditional media here with the cardstock. This happens to be glossy, and that one's going to be best for what we're going after today, and that's for saturation and color depth. It's what I've always liked to do throughout the years. I've, kind of dabbled around with a lot of other things lately with different types of foils, vellums, printable vinyls and such that have their own strengths, but glossy cardstock is the thing that printers use and advertisers, publishers, etc. to get the most amount of impact and attention traditionally, okay? Cardstock, glossy cardstock is what they print most book covers from, movie posters, business cards, anything like that where you want visual impact because it retains the most amount of media on the surface as opposed to getting, absorbed into the pulp of the paper. So you get a lot of vibrant, rich, saturated tones on the surface. And that's what we're going to try for in this session today. I thought I would do something with the fire lookout. Okay, and we're gonna go for. I was imagining this in kind of a sunset color scheme scenario here, and I'm trying to think of nowadays. I'm working with so many different media. It's like it used to be easy, you're just using dye-based inks, but now I'm wondering if I should stamp this out with like a stays-on ink. Just so when I go over it with that heavy degree of saturation with all the dye-based inks, it'll be the least likely to smear, considering I'm not giving this, a little bit of time to set up, being that this is a live stream. So considering that, I think we will go with the stays-on impressions here for the composition. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of establish these in my mind here, kind of a platform for our fire lookout tower. Okay, and I'll make it on a little bit of a slope to give it that sense of elevation, I guess. And then I thought I would use some mountains in the distance here. But I don't want to stamp it too high because I want to leave enough room for that, hopefully, dramatic sky. Hello, Phyllis and Linda. How are you this evening, afternoon, whatever time it is? I guess evening for most of us, huh? All right, let's see here. Okay, so let's see. I might need to re-ink this. I think I will just to be safe here. We're going to go for black impressions for most of the objects, and then we'll go for color in the sky. Hope everyone's well. Whoever happens to join in, or if you're watching this in a replay, thanks for logging on and checking it out. All right, so compositionally, I don't have any kind of, I didn't have anything kind of thought out here with this scene. I was just thinking my general kind of starting point was fire lookout under a sunset, okay? So if I'm thinking of sunset and dramatic sky, I want to leave room for it up here, but, since it's working around the fire lookout, we have to create a platform for a setting. So that's where I'm giving it this right here. Okay. This happens to be the boulders with lichen. And I'm just overlapping, changing the angle. You don't want to use I guess you can use a mask if you want to, but it's really designed where you're not having to use a mask on this, and you're just overlapping both side to side and top to bottom like that, okay? And you should get a nice seamless ledge there in this case, all right? Okay, so that is that. Now I'm going to put some trees around this. This is where I will do a little bit of masking off. And this is going to be placed right about right here. Okay. So where I'm going to mask off is just where this straight edge meets this curved slope. Okay. And let's see. Nothing too extreme in terms of a mask. We're just going to, well, that was too straight of a rip right there. Here we go. Now, let's see here. Oh, see, that's just right there. Okay. I'm thinking twilight time here, okay? Sunset, twilight, kind of roughly around in that area. So I'm just doing this in a dark color scheme. You can do it in multiple tones if you want to. I mean, if you're doing this in a high noon type of thing, scenario, then you can color those trees green on here before you stamp them out, so you get inherently green impressions, okay? Remember, these are solid trees, so it's not like you're going to stamp them out in black, solid black, and then color them in, you know what I mean? There's nothing to color in because it's a solid form, okay? So, like I said, high noon, color it black, and then take a pen, color in some of those trees green, a greenish tinge. You're not going to do it in like a day glow green or something like that. Unless you're doing like a specialty psychedelic scene or something of that sort. But, just make things easy for yourself. Sometimes people stamp things out in black and then they add like a color scheme around it. It kind of works, but it's just easier to have it inherently within the form like that. There was a fire tower across the road from your parents' farm. What? How high was your parents' farm? That's interesting. That's pretty cool. Unless everything was like flat around there and they just need something with some elevation. That's pretty cool. I love fire lookouts. It's too bad. In California alone, there used to be, I forgot what there was. It was, I don't know if there was 100. There was a lot of them. And there's very few of them remaining, just because, they didn't kind of maintain them or anything like that after they are out of service. So, but I just love the idea of them. I've been in only one. I'm trying to think if I've hiked to multiples, but I was mentioning on a previous live stream too. One of my favorite hikes in Southern California was up to about, let me see, Tuckett's Peak Lookout. I'm guessing it was probably up at around 9,000 feet or so. And used to go up there all the time, especially during the summer months. I mostly like doing desert hiking, but, in the desert, I don't know, 5 months out of the year, you're not going out there. It's just too hot. So my hiking at elevation would be to Tuckett's Peak and all over on that kind of general area there. And it was an active tower, so if anyone was manning it, you can go in there and talk to them and whatnot. There weren't a huge, it was a pretty well-known hike and everything like that, but there were. It's not like there was 20 people up there at any one time, and they give you a little bit of a tour and they'd show you how this one kind of instrument they use. I forgot what they call it. But how they kind of plot the the actual location of the fire, and they're using this equipment that they don't really make anymore. So he was telling me about how they're always kind of trying to find parts for those things, to maintain them and keep them in good working order. So they have to keep buying these used parts or whatnot. It was kind of interesting. And one of the things that's cool about, I don't know, kind of being in the stamping community or whatever, or just, having a little bit of a network of, people out there, on Facebook and whatnot. I posted, my original scene using the, this is the Badlands range, by the way, here. And someone saw it, and you know, they ordered both sizes of the lookout towers because their husband is like in the, I don't know, Fire Lookout Association. You know, she gave me his name and just said look it up, and yeah, he's like the secretary of that organization. So it's pretty cool, you know. Because I always thought every time I got up to that destination, I always thought it'd be cool to kind of volunteer up there, or even like stay overnight in that fire lookout. Okay, so we have a little bit of a scale working here. We have these, you know, this close range right here. This will give us a little bit of an area in here. We could have left that open too and just had it all clouds or something like that, but I thought I would add this in here just to give it a little bit of a sense of scale and something in between the lookout and the background that I'm going to be adding in here, which is going to be kind of a sloping cloud line here, and then some. I guess it's going to be past, or no. Okay, I was going to use, okay, the alto cumulus cloud. I was thinking about a couple different things before I started this one, so it'll be the alto cumulus clouds. Actually, maybe if they're kind of angled the other way. So see, I already have the slope going this way, and this is going this way, of course. So I think it'll be better. We can go like that, but that would be too static. I think it'd be better like this in here. So I thought I'd go maybe just to kind of contrast some textures in here. I'd go with the cloud cumulus and then add this in there kind of as a contrasting textural element, and to give some things some visual direction. I'm coming up with this right now. You know, I'm trying to think of different ways to do it. I think there's multiple ways to do everything, and it's like, oh my god, I chose the wrong way. It's just, you know, it'll just look different. Maybe one way would have looked better. I don't know, you know, but it's usually not like a one thing or another type of scenario here. Let's see. Hello, Jeannie. There's a lot of fire lookouts in Washington. I've seen hikes to them up there. I was going to tell my sister. There's a lot of hikes now on YouTube and whatnot. A lot of these different types of destinations used to be kind of like not a secret thing. They were in guidebooks and everything like that and whatnot. But you know, when people see the visuals of these types of locations, it really gets inundated. You know, if it looks like a really cool destination, which is good, you know, because I want everyone to get outdoors and really enjoy these different, usually state parks. Some of them are federal, but it seems like the fire lookout ones are usually in state property. But yeah, you want these places to be fairly popular and whatnot. You know, it's a better chance of preservation with them. But I like having them all to myself, though. Which I did for many years in various locations. Okay, here's the cloud cumulus like this, okay? And let's see here. Let's go like this. Dark brown. Okay. That was a really bad mask right there. See that space in there? But we're going to be filling all that in with color anyway. Okay, and we'll go like this. I think I'm just going to stamp it right across this, and I don't know. It's going to get into the open spaces within this structure right here, but, you know, so be it. I do have the multicolor paint pens to reclaim some areas within that space form, if I really feel like doing it, if it needs it, okay? I mean, the scene's going to be fairly, you know, dense with color anyway, so I don't know if I really need to. Okay, I'm going to make this one a little bit lighter, though. I am stamping this out in a dark brown. The backfield was crawling with sheriff's deputies. They were looking for stills in the woods. None were found. Oh! I had to think about that. I was like thinking stills. What did they get? Did they get tipped off that there might be some out there or something like that? Seems like there would have been like a tip, or something like that. For them to kind of arrange a time to get out there and, investigate. Okay, we're going to cap this off up here too, so it'll be the alto cumulus. Remember, this is cumulus, and this is alto cumulus. Otherwise, in other words, or it goes by, mackerel sky or something. So we'll do this one right here. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to think of what color I want to stamp this out in. Let's go for a multi-toned impression here. And let's go with, let's go here. Okay, so I'm going with the base of brown, okay? Kind of a medium value brown, okay? And then let's go with some darker up top, like that. And then let's take an orange pen and just add in some streaks like this. This is how I learned how to color stamps, working at a stamp of the hand, going with the Marvy brush marker series, and then, kind of going for that watercolory effect with that. All right. And let's mask off some of these clouds down here. I don't know if I really need to, but let's go like that. Okay. And I'm going to kind of avoid that lighthouse right there. I mean, not lighthouse, but the lookout. Let's see. Wrong side. Here we go. Okay, let's do this one around that tower. I'll just cover up just to be safe. I don't want too much of that form or a texture going into that rooftop. It'd be okay if it went into those windows, though, okay? All right, so that's what we have right there. I know it looks really weird right now, but this is what I'm always mentioning to people when I'm doing these types of scenes. This is not, you know what I mean? Someone might get to that and it's like, oh my God, I lost all my forms in there or something like that. And they kind of get panicky and think, okay, this scene did not work out. You know what I mean? And they just, I don't know, they put it aside or they trash it or something like that. But, I mean, they haven't even got to like step whatever, B or something like that. They're just working on A right now. And oftentimes when you're working with this degree of overlapping and, color additions, media additions too, stuff might come together in like I don't know, whatever, the fifth step or something like that. That's when everything kind of makes sense from a compositional standpoint and kind of, I don't know, whatever, integration, I guess we could say, right there. All right, so that's what that looks like right there. We have some clouds up here that'll be reflecting some of the light. Most of the lighting is going to be coming in from this area in here. We'll have some of it reflecting off of these mountains right here. So these mountains right here have the shading on this side, so we'll add darker tones in there. And down here, let's do something right here. Let's have some fun with this cloud again here. Let's go with, well, this is all black right here, and that's black right there. So let's use dark brown again right in here, okay? So I'm wiping off the top and the bottom of it, or really around the entire perimeter like this, okay? And then you're going to mask off this ledge right here, okay? Which is, it's a ledge created by the boulders with light, and there's another stamp called ledge, which you can also use down there. But we'll just put these clouds down right here, okay? So hopefully we'll have some light here that'll be reflecting off some of those clouds there, here, and down there. And then we'll oscillate lights and darks over the top of this scene right here. Okay, I think we're going to add in some additional trees, but let's do that after we start adding in some colors into this scene right here. Okay, so let's see. Let's start off. I've picked out a range of tones right here, and I'm just going to arrange them. Mix and match your colors, you know. This happens to be all Marvy, but you don't have to go with the same brand of anything. If you're going to do this type of color layering, just use the same type of tones. So if you have some Memento, Distress Inks, etc., just kind of lay them out in a range that you feel that it's probably going from light to dark. If you can't tell what color is darker than the other, then it's close enough. It doesn't matter which one you use first, okay? Just in general. But I can tell this is going to be darker than this, right? So you'll use that. You'll work through your toning process going from light to dark. All right, so I'm just going to use just a wadded up paper towel. Here's one right here. And we'll start defining our kind of lighting scheme, color scheme, etc. We're doing our color scheme right here, but just by the degree of retention of the lightness of the paper, that's going to develop our lighting scheme at the same time as our color scheme in there. So in other words, don't color in everything uniformly, okay, with whatever color schemes you're working with, whatever colors you happen to be working with at that time, and you'll develop your lighting within a scene. Sometimes people think you put light back into a scene like that when they see the final result, if they haven't seen the process before. But now it's just all about retention because this area is already light in here, okay? All right, so this is like a orangish yellow right here. Okay. I'm just kind of, I'm adding it like this. A lot of times I do this streaky touch right here, but I want to avoid going over all of my clouds too much. I mean, you can go over them, but just don't go over everything uniformly, especially through your medium and darker tones. Did 2 fire lookout scenes. Oh, I want to see those, Jeannie. Your your reflection one, by the way, was awesome. I've been enjoying those. If anyone's on Facebook, I mention this all the time, but if you guys are on Facebook or if you haven't joined the Stampscapes group, check out the Stampscapes group scenes. You can see the fire lookouts with different looks. Linda is on there with a fire lookout scenes. Did you? Let me see. I can't remember who did multiples of it. Jeannie's scene with the fire lookout reflection and I see it as like an alpine type of pond or whatnot underneath the lookout where it's reflecting in the pond. Very inventive right there. Awesome. But yeah, I've been enjoying everyone's scenes on that Facebook group there. Very cool. And one of the things that's nice, every time I use one of my, new designs too, I'm seeing something that I haven't seen before. But, in everyone else's usage too, I'm seeing things that I haven't seen of these designs before, so it is just really, really exciting. A lot of different techniques too. You know, some people have very established looking techniques, and you can just tell who did it before you even see the name. And some of them, if they're newer, usually, you can see it's really interesting to watch kind of the evolution of a technique take place in people's work. It's one of those times in the paper arts and card making. You know, a lot of card making is kind of a step by step type of thing. We're going to do this, this, and this. You know what I mean? And I'll see a bunch of cards on the different groups that look awesome. Okay, but it seems like in scenic stamping, it's really conducive to, I don't know, it just, people, there's this development of someone's like signature style, and it incorporates, their, I don't know, different kind of aesthetics into the pieces, or I don't know, it's like your signature or something like that. And handwriting, it's kind of hard to break that, you know? And yeah, you can really tell, you know, whose pieces are whose, no matter what designs they're using. Okay, so this is just one color right here, and you can see I'm kind of developing my lighting scheme using just this one color so far. I've used it kind of heavier in certain areas and lighter in other areas, okay? And then none in some areas. So I'm kind of retaining some white of the paper in there, just in case I do want to add in some sort of other hue in there. I mean, I can add white in there because there's still white light within the piece. So if I wanted to add in something like white pigment ink at the end, it makes sense visually because that is the color of light within the scene. The lightest lighting within the scene is the same color as the pigment ink. So just remember that type of thing. And if you do, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't retain white in every scene that I do. Sometimes I get through a scene, and if I do have some of it, and if it kind of looks awkward, I'll just fill it in. I'll go back in with the lightest tone and just kind of fill it in. So it is the lightest area, but it's just a light color, so sometimes. But I prefer to retain that white through the process so that I'll have the choice of doing, other things later on than kind of being stuck with something. Specifically, kind of highlighting choices. If I have white in there, I can highlight with white with my paint pen and whatnot. It's opened up a little bit though, these days, because I do have colored paint pens. I have like if I toned everything out and everything got yellow, but then everything got orange, oranges and pinks and deeper saturated tones in here. I can go back in and I can highlight with, like a beige or something like that, a pale orange now, because I don't have like a white paint pen, you know what I mean? I used a white paint pen for years, so, but now we have colored pens, so, I can highlight with the color out of the color scheme here, just a light version of some color, so, I don't know, I do that, but I'm still, kind of, I don't know, I use that white paint pen for years, gel pens, so I'm still kind of doing that. I should probably, move on from that notion of, complete, absolute, value range going from white to whatever black, you know what I mean? I can move this up a little bit if I wanted to. Yeah, put it in on anything, Linda. A lot of times, fire lookouts in California, at least, where the elevation of certain mountains does get upwards of, I guess that would be in the West too. I'm trying to think of some of the other lookouts that I've seen, like in Washington State. A lot of them are at the, some of the highest points within a range, and those highest points, a lot of times, they don't go above the tree line, but they're kind of where it's kind of there's less trees in those areas, like taller trees at least. You know what I mean? Because if I were to look, I wouldn't be able to see above them. There are some on the lower ranges too, as long as there's kind of an overlook. But a lot of it is like they're built on, like on granite, in a lot of those areas. So it's like solid rock with, a few scattered trees around it. So yeah, any of the rocks would be appropriate. Now, if you go into other areas, I'm guessing, fire lookouts, in different areas and whatnot, you know what I mean? It's just on whatever highest point there is, then it could be, at 4,000 feet or something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other lookouts. It's like lookouts aren't quite the kind of the scenic kind of destination spot like a lighthouse would be, So you don't get a lot of photographs of things like lookouts, because they're oftentimes, they're way out, you know, away from the crowds and whatnot, by the nature of them, they're in areas where they need someone kind of looking out, to see if there is a fire or something like that. So like lighthouses, you can go. Some of them have like turned into like B&Bs and stuff. I don't know if it's bed and breakfast, but you can stay at them. And with fire lookouts, you have to volunteer to be in them. On the one that I like a lot, Taki's Peak, it's, if you're going to volunteer for it, you have to hike up, it's probably about 5 miles up, and there's probably about a 2,000 foot elevation change, I'm guessing. I think it went from about 7,500 to about 9,500 feet. Yeah, maybe it's 7 to 9. So kind of high elevation. Maybe that's why I always thought it'd be cool to kind of volunteer for it, so I wouldn't have to I can get up there and just stay up there instead of turning around and hiking back down. It's an easy hike, but I don't know. I'm one of those hikers that when I get to a destination, I typically stayed in there, up in that area for a long time, you know, before I went back down. All right, so we're working through, I don't know, what is that, the third color? Did I work through, no, I didn't go through that one yet, but it kind of changes, with each color value that you go through, it kind of changes its personality a little bit. It's almost like, the time of day keeps getting later and later the darker you go here. Okay, now, I always mention to people that when I'm doing this type of thing here, as I'm going darker and darker, it isn't necessarily because I want the scene darker. Sometimes I just want the lighter things to seem lighter, or I want the color scheme to look richer and deeper. Okay? And the way to do that is, you just have to go for additional layers. So, this is the brown right here, but the thing that's giving this the richness are these colors underneath there. It's like you're putting these glazes over the top of your pieces, and the more glaze you put on there, the more transparent glazes, the deeper and richer the piece becomes, because it's like these are laying down on top of one another. They're not really physically merging with one another as you put one on top of another like that. So it's like these transparent layers like that, and it just builds up this vibrancy and richness to it, saturation, and certainly, if you're working through a color scheme like this, going, into your darker tones, it's you're building up your value scheme too. So light and dark, and dull to bright. There's hardly anything dull in here, but so it's mostly bright, brightness. Oh, hello in Ontario, Canada. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. Boy, there used to be a lot of stamp stores. Well, not anymore, but Ontario used to be a, major hub for stamp stores, stamping and scrapbooking stores. Okay, a little bit of pink. See, I went with the pink into that white a little bit like that. If you build up your tones like this too, what happens is this paper, the surface is getting moister, okay? I mean, it's drying as I'm doing this here, through absorption and evaporation. But, I mean, it's starting to, kind of move towards super saturation, where it's drying slower just because of the the amount of ink that's being built up on here. Okay, so what I'm getting at right here is, we're taking colors in at a certain rate, kind of over a dry piece of, blank cardstock when you first start out. So there's more absorption taking place. So you don't one inking up of your whatever applicator you're using doesn't go as far. Okay. So when you start getting to, I don't know, this is whatever, the fifth color or something like that, relative humidity for your area also kind of plays a part here too, but kind of slow down your rate of application, because you might, it's in these darker tones. Well, this is still a really light tone, but it's in these kind of, whatever, the third or fourth colors, a lot of times they're darker ones, mid-tone colors or something like that. This is where people lose their lighting a lot of times, because when they went like this with, the first color or something like that, most of it got absorbed, so it was kind of dry by the time they made that stroke over here. But now that's wet, and this is kind of wet on the surface, wet on the pulp. You're going across here like that, and with the darker color, and it's like you go like that, and it's like by the time you get in here where you want that area lighter like that, it's really dark because the ink isn't coming off the applicator as fast, because of its, the page is so wet at this point in time. Now, now I'm going, this is, as you can see too, I could have made this ledge here a different color scheme or something like that. I'm just making it easy for myself and just kind of putting it all, in that same color scheme. I'm saying this is the color scheme right here, the lighting scheme. That light is reflecting over these rocks down here and making them that color, okay? All right, so speaking of that, I'm going to skip that orange right there. Did I already use that? And let's go into, let's go ahead and use this red. Let's see. Yeah, that makes a difference there, doesn't it? I was going to say, at this point in time, you can just start skipping some colors, because they might not really affect things too much, but I don't know, that looks pretty good there. You can see the difference between that side and this side clearly, huh? And see this alto cumulus, it has these patterns to it, so I'm going to streak across there like that, see, I'm leaving this right here, but I came right here and here, kind of going into that form, or into the patterns, forms, I guess, clouds, like that. So it's kind of reiterating the direction in here. You can use the cloud alto cumulus too, by the way, as like a water pattern for a lake or something like that. And I've seen people use the water pattern for skies, like a alto cumulus, type of look, mackerel sky too. So you can make those, a lot of your water patterns and things like that, interchangeable with sky. Okay, now down here in my rocks, you notice what I'm doing right here? I'm kind of leaving it light, and then I'm going darker, and then light here. Just so that it varies this area in here, and it says that light is kind of hitting it differently in another, in a given form like this. It just gives it a little bit more dimension like that. I guess you can see it kind of up here too. I mean, here's the sky, and I didn't quite bisect it, in here with that streak of red. So, I'm just trying to make certain areas a little bit more visually interesting like that by separating up and doing this kind of oscillation of lighting, light and shadow throughout, the piece. So these clouds up here have areas of darker, lighter, darker. Alto cumulus has darker, lighter, darker, The mountain here is lighter and darker, and so this area down here. So you're just making things a little bit more visually interesting like that. I mean, you can do it. That's just my way of doing it, and I tend to do that. I kind of do it without even thinking about it most of the time. But that's what I like to do. I like to kind of checkerboard, an area. So it's, going from light to dark from top to bottom, but it's also doing it from side to side, but it's also within each space and element. Okay, this is a little bit of, it's wine, it says. So kind of like a plum looking color like that. That plum, I didn't think would do very much, but I think that's, I don't know, it seems like it's influencing it quite a bit. Which is pretty good. Okay, now here's where I start. Like in that area in there, remember how I kind of missed, I overmasked, I guess. But you just kind of fill it in with these colors like this. It's starting to fill in a little bit. It'll fill in more when I do that area in here using the same color that I did on my cloud. Okay. And that's what I mean about if you were on earlier where I just mentioned, you just kind of work your colors and shading and media through your process right here, and that's when everything kind of comes together. And I'm kind of, I'm watching this area in here, making sure I don't get too dark around it. I mean, this isn't really dark color, it's like that. And it's still, I don't know if it's even 50%, in terms of light and dark yet. But we're getting there. We're almost there. All right. Okay, I can't remember if I've used... Did I already use this brown on here? I can't even remember. I guess I can look on here. It doesn't... I don't know if I did. If you're, a lot of times, a lot of colors out there. Sometimes if you're working through here's my tip for you here, like on sunsets or like in a grassy slope or something like that. Or it doesn't have to be a grassy slope, just to feel the grass, okay? If you're just working only greens, yellow greens, medium greens, Christmas greens, dark greens, or something like that. It can look kind of weird just with greens like that. So you take any tone like this. This is just brown. In the distressing, so it would be like a walnut stain, something of that hue. And then layer it into your green tones. So for like hot sunset colors or something like this, sometimes it looks too kind of electric and hot, so you blend in a brown into it. And the brown is the thing that will kind of mellow things out. It'll still look nice and deep and vibrant, but it won't look so kind of like a day glow, tone of whatever color it is, reds and oranges, or in grassy areas, too hot of a green, electric green. It'll be more mellow. So just bring your browns into it, okay? Now that's not really with this one right here, okay? That's with this one in this scene right here, but I'm going to be getting to, where is it? Here it is right here. Here's the brown that I used on my clouds and whatnot, okay? I mean, this brown knocked things down a little bit. Things are still kind of glowing and vibrant, but I think this is the one that'll kind of really bring it together now, okay? I'll show you just how saturated this is right here, okay? Here, you can see it right here. See, right here, I'll take some of this right here. I'll just go like that, You see that big blotch, like that? And you can just really spread it around. Or if I do that on, a piece of paper like that, that is really set. It's not going anywhere, right? Okay, but this paper right here, it's fairly saturated with the ink right now, so it really makes it easy to blend your tones in too, your darker tones. If you get kind of an application that you don't want with it, it'll just blend right out because it's kind of, you're applying kind of moist into, damp. Like that. You can see how dark it gets like that, but watch this. You can almost kind of wipe it off like that, okay? Now, some of it did apply, but, a lot of it is still here because it's just not transferring as much. But it makes it really easy to do like very smooth tones like that. And the trick of it all was using enough of your lightest tones, usually the first couple colors, and giving it a good saturated base like that. And it makes all these other colors really easy to spread around like this, okay? And if anyone ever has any kind of troubles with this, it's with their darker tones, because the darker tones might get a little bit too, they might create a little bit too much contrast between it. Like there's a big black mark right here, and then it doesn't really blend in with the rest of the area because they just hit it too hard with an area like that. And there wasn't enough of a base coat where they can kind of spread it around. If that happens, you just go back in with the lighter tones, and add another layer of it down. Maybe by the time you get to this point in time, all of this is kind of dried up a little bit more, so, it doesn't blend as easy as this. Just go back in and add your lighter tone right back over everything. Watch out for your lighter areas if you want that white in there. And then go back in with your darker tone and just, blend, have an easier time with your blending, okay? Sometimes people, when they're trying to blend in like black or something like that on there, and like I said, if it's not blending in, sometimes they try to force it with the black, and then this little area of black that they want to blend in now is like this, and with this hard black edge like that. But no, don't do that. Just put that aside like that. Grab a new paper towel, sponge, whatever you're using, and just go back in, add light back into it. It's not going to take out the black, but it makes that black easier to blend in with, kind of that dark to light transition like that. All right, so anyways, this is going in with that brown. It's the color that I stamped my clouds out in. And this, you can see it's starting to, it's starting to kind of blend all those other tones in too. It's not really applying in as dark of a brown as those impressions were using that same brown, because this is really wet right now, That's the other side of it too. Sometimes when you want to add kind of a darker amount like that, you have to kind of be delicate in terms of your application, because if you're pressing too hard, you're kind of, see that area right there? See, I can remove some of that ink like that, okay? Okay, let's see here. Oh, one of the things is too, if you're using really thick inks, Marvy inks tend to be thinner, so I can apply them faster because they're thinner and they absorb into the paper more and probably evaporate more. Okay, so that being said, sometimes if you're applying inks and it's like, I am just not getting any darker, okay, because nothing is applying, just let it sit for 5 minutes or something like that and go back to it and let it, kind of sit and evaporate a little bit. I wouldn't use a heat gun or anything like that on it because you still want things a little bit moist, so that you can have easy ink blends, okay? But just kind of set it aside for, a couple minutes or something like that. And just come back to it. It'll be more accepting of your, additional inks of whatever colors you have to still work through. Hello, Bonnie. Hello, Vintage Scrap Girl. A sky full of bats or swallows. Could be. Actually, they wouldn't be up at that elevation right there. Maybe during Halloween, though. I love bats. And we always had swallows around, too. Gosh, I haven't seen swallows in a long time, though. Oh, I was wondering what these things were. They were like these little, like, mice droppings, like on the underside of our porch. Like walls and whatnot. And I was thinking, what in the world is doing that, I thought it was like some moth or something that was doing it. But then one time, my son and my wife were coming back from somewhere, probably from him working out, that's where they are right now at night, on certain days when there's open gym at his parkour gym. And when they got home, there was this little tiny bat up there. So I don't know. I guess I was wondering if it was out there every night or something like that, or I don't know. I don't think we don't keep our porch light on, so it wasn't attracting bugs. So I thought that could have been it, but yeah. So we got like a, I don't know, like a house bat. It was the only time we saw them though. One time, but I'm sure they're out there all the time though, because there was all these little droppings, and I've taken the hose out there at times to kind of wash it all down. But I couldn't imagine what on earth was, doing that. I thought it was like a bug or something like that. All right, getting a little bit richer with that dark brown. I think I'm going to start adding a darker brown to the slope. I don't want this area down here, these rocks, to be kind of the same kind of value as the sky. The sky, the sky probably should be a little bit lighter, or a lot lighter, being the light source, and this area down here is just reflected light. But I do want some variation though, down in these rocks. But let's just make it a little bit darker. What are those ink blending tools? It was like the life changing or whatever, the life altering. It was the name of some product, I forgot. The life something. It wasn't the life improving, but I forget what they call them. The makeup brushes. So this is the life altering paper towel here then, if that's, if that's the case. Someone should take one of these things and like squirt it with water when you're done, and then just go on and do some kind of like abstract background with it or something like that, And then you can make use of all that saturated tone in there. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should just keep these, after they kind of dry, and I just reconstitute that existing ink on there and see what we can do for a background. All right, so anyway, let's see here. Let's go on. I think we're ready for black. That almost looks black though, doesn't it? That dark brown. I think I'm going to put some stars up here too. I don't know if I could splatter paint it. I'd have to mask off certain things. Maybe, I don't know. So this is my, like, I don't know, Twilight or something like that. I wanted to do one. I want to do one under the stars too. Linda, you did that one, right? The nighttime scenario with that, or I don't know who I don't know. Someone did that. It was like, oh, I love it. I can see what that looks like. Okay, I'm taking this black right here. It's probably applying... Oh, I'm guessing with every, each tap like this, I'm guessing I'm applying like a 5% gray, with any given tap or application of it. See, well, I'm going like this. See, we're not using like a super dark black. Like, see, one tap like that, it's like nothing, right? But it's a good way to do it though, because you have a lot of control over it, So instead of just going like, oh my God, it's too dark black like that, just, go with a lighter application of gray. So in order to achieve like a 70% gray or 80% or all the way to black, instead of getting it in one, kind of more precarious application like that, you just do it through a process of, I don't know, whatever it might be, like 30 taps or something like that. It takes longer to do, but there's much more control over it, and you can apply it, just how much you want in that area like that, okay? All right, now, so here comes black right here, and the lighter you want some areas to appear, you just make some areas a little bit darker or a lot darker, okay? If you want that to look, by contrast, I don't know, 5% darker, lighter, you can make, I don't know, some area down here 5% darker. It's usually if you have something like right next to it, it looks like a lot, lighter, playing contrast against one another. But it's also true that you can put areas down here that are darker, and, these areas that are farther away from it will still look a little bit lighter. Again, by contrast, you're not lightening them up, you're just making some area darker, so that some area kind of looks, lighter. Okay, doing this thing I call tipping the corners right here, a little bit of a darker top left and right corner, like that. Kind of caps things off a little bit too, like that. All right. Now, I think let's go in and add in some additional trees for contrast. Okay, this area looks really dark. In person, it doesn't look that dark, but on screen, I think it looks really dark. Okay, you can see it's like lighter like that. It's not that dark right here. My camera's kind of like I don't know, it's like boosting up the contrast or something like that. I'm gonna put in some trees like this, and I think I'll put maybe some trees behind this a little bit too. Let's go for that. Okay, so what I'm trying to think of is if I should do it in the StazOn black or if I should do it in dye-based black. The dye-based black might not be dark enough though. So I think I might go with the StazOn here. I didn't used to do that, okay? I used to just go with all dye-based inks, but this is so saturated right here. Sometimes if you go like that and you lift it up, you know what I mean? Because this is still a little bit moist. It's still the same concept of blending right here. Sometimes it doesn't transfer over there, which makes it easier to blend colors in here. But if you're stamping over the top of it, it might not stamp with as dark of an impression as you might want it to be with that. So let's go with the StazOn ink here. StazOn's probably already dry underneath here, but I'm holding this on just out of kind of habit of how I would be doing dye-based inks. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is really, really dark. Okay, I don't need to hold that down as like as long here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. The good thing about this too, now like I said, I usually don't use StazOn, okay? I've been using just dye-based ink foreground images for, you know, I don't know, whatever, 25 years, and that's fine, but sometimes these foreground images, it takes them a really long time to dry too sometimes, because you're stamping a wet impression over a damp area, but this should dry a lot faster for me. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. All right, so that gives a little bit of a foreground like that. It gives it a little bit more depth, I think. It kind of pushes back the mountain or the ledge and the tower up there a little bit and kind of frames things off a touch. And let's go for... my desk is so cluttered, I just grabbed for a couple other stamps out here, so my individual tree would be easier to do this, but I'm just going to ink up a couple of these trees right here. And on the back side of this ledge right here, I want some of these trees like that, okay? Just to create a little bit more separation between this rock and that background in there. I don't think this area in here is terribly exciting, you know what I mean? So I'll just kind of add, you know, another element in there. Or I might add the tree, actually. I can have these trees kind of coming out of the cracks in these rocks right here, too. Like that. Like, you know, you see up in, I don't know, whatever, those types of areas like that anyway. Here, I'll decide here. Yeah, I'm going to go back there like that. Okay. Okay, so yeah, see that right in there. So I went in there. Let's add one more coming out. Actually, let me see something here. Yeah, great. I didn't have to look too far for this bare tree. Let me use this one. Let's see. Hello, Froggy Fresh. Is this a forest fire? If you see a fire, then it is. And if it's twilight, then that's what that is. Are you going to add orange and red paint for sparks? No. I don't see this as a fire, but I do look at sunset skies sometimes, and it does look like it's ablaze in sunset colors. Okay, this is the pine, leafless pine, okay? And I'm just running this across this foreground area like so. I almost skewed like that when I was stamping it. I was like, oh no! But it looks fine. It's just this paper is like really slippery. I added, this is like the most amount of color that I usually add on to something. No, I don't know, whatever. What, I don't know, with like 7 layers of color maybe. I mean, I don't usually use that many, but that was kind of the point of this one. I just wanted to have that real deep saturated area up there like that. So, okay, so we have these down here like that. All right. This one I might mat this in or mount this onto a piece of that gold cardstock, that gold reflective cardstock. And okay, let's see here. I'm trying to think if I want anything else in here before I start adding in some additional touches. I think let's go on. Okay, so this area got, everything is pretty extreme here in terms of my color scheme. Let's see right here. That looks a little, here, I'm going to adjust this right here. Okay, that's more about the tone that we're looking at right here. My camera was kind of underexposing right there. But that's about the, yeah, that's about the true richness right here. It's, I don't know, there's a lot more contrast on my screen here than what exists down here. Okay, yeah, that area there isn't quite as white, as you can see. Yeah, Froggy Fresh sees a forest fire, it's forest fire for them. That area up there, who saw bats? Then it's bats and swallows for them. As I always say, we see what we want to see. I always joke with my wife and son about that when we're watching movies and things like that. Did they say that, you know? Okay, so let's add in some highlights in here. This is kind of a tan color right here. It's really light in value though. Okay, 0.7 millimeter acrylic paint pen, okay? I love these paint pens these days. I was so kind of limited with the amount of colors I had to work with for years in the gel pens, and you know, the gel pens that may or may not have worked sometime, or worked, you know, very briefly. But these paint pens work really good for the most part. They are kind of watery. They're waterier than certain gel pens were in the past. But they did that, I think, or do that so that you don't get like the incidence of clogging, like which you know, such a problem with a lot of the gel pens of old. The gel pens these days, you know, those multi, you know, color packs, sets of 100 or whatever. I find those gel pens to work really well, but they're just more watery than in the past. So you sacrifice some opacity and impact for longevity. And I'll take the longevity over kind of a pen that lasts, you know, whatever, a couple of years. But these ones right here, I find that these ones work pretty much to completion, you know, till they're completely empty. these days. I did run into one brand though, where one pen, I didn't test out the entire pack, but it seemed like it clogged on me. I don't know if I just kind of clogged up the tip or something like that. I don't think I did. Sometimes I can do that when I'm doing this over like pigment ink or something like that. It can go up in the tip and then it kind of dries. But these, I don't know. This one's kind of clogging on me right now though, too, a little bit. Here, let me see. Let me get it flowing here. Sometimes when you're going on to a, super slick surface too, it's hard to get kind of its foothold on there. So just as I say that, something, and this one's dry. There we go. See that right there? So it was just this little thing in there. Look how fluid that is right there. Okay, here we go. I don't know, there must have been some, I probably used it with something, in the past, like with, it's almost flowing too much. I might have used it over some Dr. Martens or something like that before, and it, got, a little bit of paint gets trapped up in that little 0.7 millimeter tip like that. So just get it flowing like that, okay? Just kind of scribble it out. This one's like on a piece of like matte, black or something like that. I don't know. I do it on the black just so I can see it a little bit easier. All right, let's see. So I'm kind of defining this little ridge line a little bit, and the forms on there. Okay, that might be a little bit extreme. You can just kind of blot it off a little bit like that too and remove some of that paint so it's just like lighter right there, and that's just right. See, it's on my finger right there. You can just kind of dab it off and just get it, applied on there however much you want, okay? Okay. So these are crisp highlights, and I'll kind of mellow these out a little bit. They're a little bit extreme, and they're really standing out because the background is fairly dark on here. I'll mellow it out with a little bit of a pigment ink, okay? So we're going for a crisp highlight, but we'll add kind of a light, mellow highlight too. That's a little bit extreme here. I'm exposing too much. There's too much contrast on this. Let's see, I don't know. Things are just too vibrant on there. My camera can't kind of expose correctly. I guess that looks a little bit better. Okay, so let's see. Putting some of these highlights on some of these trees, limbs. The light is coming from here, so I'll put a few little highlights on the side of the tree, mostly on, the left side of the tree, and this tree over here, I'll put the highlights on the right side, or most of them like that. I'm not going to go too extreme because that's an area that's really dark down there. But it kind of pulls the tree out from the background a little bit. Visually. Okay, now remember what I said. If you were on earlier and I said, I'm going to go right into that. I didn't want to mask this tower structure off, because, to stamp that cloud in back there, because I would have this whole area in between, in the middle here without that cloud texturing in between all these, whatever, the beams in there and legs and whatnot. And this is what I mentioned, this is something that I can just go back in and I can just re-establish, those beams in here using a paint pen these days, okay? So I find this easier just to go in and reiterate these legs like this and all these like very thin, I don't know what you'd call these things, cross beams or something like that, just with this paint pen. And this takes like, I don't know, whatever, 10 seconds to do, rather than taking the time to mask that you know, that tower off. So I just go like that, you know, the leg, whatever, the stand, I don't know, whatever it is we called. You know, they're there again. So it's super easy to do. Okay, this rooftop here, I want it to kind of be reflecting a lot of that lighting in here, but let's, I don't know, change some of that a little bit, and I can put into this yellow, I can put a little bit of a, I don't know, highlight onto these windows if I want to, like that. All right, so hopefully that tower kind of stands out a little bit more. Can you see that right there? And see, I'm doing it in this beige right here. You can do it in white if that's the only color you have. This one's a little bit more mellow. It does look like white in my screen, I'm noticing here, but it's, you know, it's not quite as white. You know, you can see the difference right here a little bit. Can you? You know, between these two right here. This one's like a, I don't know, like a 4%, you know, tone or something like this, where this one would be, you know, like 2, or, you know, because it's a little bit translucent too, so colors underneath are show through. All right, highlights on my tree form down here. I really feel like just giving this kind of a general splatter painting of stars in here, but I think that'd be too much. I think I'm going to hand do them with this so I can control the amount of, you know, stars I would have. And I don't want it too extreme, but it's like, you know, one of those things that's like first stars of the night type of thing kind of showing through. Okay, I'll go like that. I wonder if I have any. Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder if I have any gold crystals or something like that. You know, I can put those up there. That might be kind of interesting. I think I'm gonna add in a couple little clear crystals, you know, like for the brightest stars in here. I'm trying to think if I want to use any of this white highlighting in here. I don't think I need it. Let's go and let's see what we can do with this pigment ink in here. The pigment ink might be too light. I don't know. Let's see if we can add this anywhere just for a little bit of a, you know, kind of a textural kind of contrast in here, and make some areas a little bit more misty. Let's see if I've retained enough of the white. I don't know if I did. Okay. So just some pigment ink on a cotton ball. This is a used cotton ball. Let me see if it's still soft enough here. Okay, so I'm adding this pigment ink down, and it's barely visible, but that's what I want here. I don't want a blob of pigment ink on here. So I'm testing because I don't know how wet my white pigment ink pad is either. Okay. If you get a blob of ink with this, just wipe it off, you know. Unless you wanted a blob on there. Usually people don't. But sometimes if you do, you know, you want kind of, yeah, do you see that kind of glow starting to happen there? So yeah, kind of the spirit of this application is more like, you want to think about more like you're adding like a powder, you know, like a dry substance over the top of this, okay? As opposed to the wet ink that we really are doing, okay? But I think that looks pretty good. And I'm adding it where I've retained some of the white of the paper, and then I'm just putting it into the areas next to it that are a little bit darker. Okay. In this case, I don't want to stray too far from the illuminated area, okay, because the other areas around it are fairly dark, and it might look kind of weird to have like this glowing area like in the shadows or something like that, because the reason why it's dark over here is because we're saying that, you know, no light is hitting it, so we wouldn't have this illuminated kind of haze in there, or, you know, cloudiness like that. So I don't know, just let I be the judge of it, okay? If it looks a little bit too extreme, you know, oh, I added too much, then you just kind of wipe it away like that. Okay, let's see. See, I didn't have any white down here, but it would be kind of nice to have a little bit of separation from this mountain down here in those cloud forms, though. So let me see if I can add a little bit of it. If I had like a beige brilliance ink, it would probably be better like for down here, but I don't. So I'm just applying it in really light like that. And it's kind of, you know, it's working a little bit, I think. Like that. Okay, you can see the textural difference between that and this area in here. So it's like I'm applying kind of this real translucent see-through amount, so that color in the background is, you know, it doesn't look white, it looks, you know, like some color, but if I was working with a colored kind of, you know, pigment ink, it would be probably even better. Okay, let me do this too. Let me see if I can add a little bit of that haze behind this ledge right here to create a little bit more separation between this foreground ledge with our lookout tower and those background mountains, okay? Like that, like there. Okay, now I did that, I have to do more down here, I think. Right along this ridge line. Let's see, something like that, okay? That stands out a little bit too much, but when it dries, it gets darker, okay? And then especially when you spray seal this, and I will spray seal this, one with so many different tones in there, it'll get darker and it'll kind of blend in a little bit better. Okay, so you go with a little bit more tone, or pigment ink, than what looks to be ideal, you know? And you can kind of wait around for it to dry, which we'll see here too, because it dries really fast. And you can see how that application of it looks on there. But it always dries a little bit darker and more see-through, okay? It's not going to dry lighter looking than when it's been freshly applied. Okay, something like that. Yeah, I'm going to put these birds up here. I'm trying to figure out a location for them. We have these so many different, these vertical type of things with this movement going around. It's go like right here. Adjust your pressure when you're stamping like really small stamps, kind of in the end. I have this other video. Oh, you can barely see him anyway. I have this video of pressure, impression pressure. You know, because usually when you're working through a scene, you're using like larger stamps and whatever. And then when you get down to the smallest little elements, sometimes people are using the same amount of pressure with, you know, a tiny stamp that they did with, you know, whatever, a G-size stamp, or, you know, something like, you know, the Alto Cumulus like that, where they're standing up and, you know, pressing down like that. All right, so I used my crystals for my ice cave scene. Was it yesterday? Already seems like it's been a week. And I really like using those little crystals as like little blingy, I don't know, whatever, three-dimensional bling looking elements within a scene, reflective elements. Okay, so I'm going to add some of that in here. I'm not going to add too many. Okay, I'll just go for like, I don't know, why don't we go for 5 like that. It's one of those things that just be like a subtle thing. I forgot to put the pin back into the bottle last night. Okay, here we go. one of those glue bits is a big blob. I'll put a bigger star on that one. All right. And we'll just go for some smaller stars. The hardest thing of this entire card is getting these little crystal rhinestones upright. That's the hardest part of my... I can't tell which one of these is glue. Okay. Because I have those little white dots down there too. I can't tell which one's glue and which one's the white paint pen. I can see it a little bit at an angle like that. Okay. All right. So there's those stars right there. That one's a little bit extreme, but that one's not that big. It squeezed out the glue like that around that thing. So I think that glue dries clear, doesn't it? That barely art. I mean, it doesn't. It's like it's not gonna be like a. Oops. It's not gonna be like a, that big blob looking thing like that right now. But anyway, so I'm trying to look at this and see if I need anything else in here in terms of depth or anything like that, and any additional trees in the background. I think that's enough trees right in there to create that separation between that hill and the slope and that back hill like that. I want this to stand out, this area right in here. That was the whole thing about that one. Oh, okay, so here's another thing I'm going to do too. Let's see. I'm going to create a little bit of texture. We have this, this rock right here. It's called Boulders with Lichen. You can do this on any rock though, but see this like green right here? I'm going to add in some little green elements. Here's some green, and this isn't the same. This is the other one that I used right here, but here's another color like that. But see these colors right here kind of, they kind of harmonize with that. So I'm going to use some of that and add some of that texturing into those rocks like that. It'll be a little bit subtle. I'm not looking to add in something that's light on top of dark, so it won't stand out that way, but hopefully this will stand out a little bit from a textural standpoint within these areas like that. That kind of, I mean, you can still see different tones and textures in there a little bit, but something like this might be kind of interesting to add in there. And of course, this kind of color right here kind of harmonizes with this general color scheme like that too. Okay. All right, so let's see. These artistras are clear, so you can see when it's kind of mixed up. Oh, you know what would be good too? Now I'm looking at this more. One of these is gold here. Always get mixed up. I think this one's the gold one right here. They don't have their colors marked on here too, but I'm going to add some gold down in here on this. Maybe this one's too light. It looked like highlights on there. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this at all. Sometimes if I tilt it a little bit, you might be able to see some of that, metallic gold reflecting off of this. But so this right here kind of creates a little bit more of a reflective, in a different way from those crystals, those crystals up there. A little bit more of a reflective quality down here. I guess where you put this gold over an area that's quite a bit darker than it, it looks a little bit like a highlight. But then if you put the gold into a light area, it'll look darker too. So I'm adding it in both areas, kind of in dark and lighter areas, but mostly in kind of medium areas. So it's like something that you really can't see like that. But let's see if I can show you that. Do you see that? reflective area down in here with the light kind of hitting it. I don't know if you can. You can see my highlights a little bit more, but you just have to take my word for it. But I can see it right here. These little gold areas, it's like invisible. But then if I turn it a little bit, like you can see it like popping out right there. These little areas that are kind of, I don't know, they're very subtle. And even when they're kind of reflecting light, they're kind of subtle too. But it kind of brings this area to life a little bit more. And, for something like a foreground area, it's good to have kind of more detailed details kind of in closer objects to us than objects farther away, which you wouldn't really be able to see that detail in there. Okay, there's a little bit of green here, kind of that lichen, type of aspect of it. You can do oranges or whatever you want in here. It kind of brings this little, rocky area to life a little bit. I'm kind of going overboard right here, but yeah, I don't know if you can see this little greenish tinge in here now. Can you? I guess you can see it a little bit. So this area in here kind of, it's different from up here a little bit with that little bit of a touch of green like that. You know what I'm going to do too, now that I'm looking at this? I'm going to put some pink in here too. Maybe it'll look like little, like little flowers or something like that, kind of at high elevation. Plus pink was already used in here, so it should kind of harmonize with it. So here's my submission to the spring challenge, Linda. I have like 3 wildflowers on here in the form of like 3 dots. Would that qualify? Yeah, I'm gonna put little, little clusters of these little pink flowers up here. They're kind of growing out of the cracks here. All right, there we go. A little bit more here. Kind of, I don't know, it looks like, I don't know, like a lupin or something like that. Do I have violet right here. This would be really more of the color that you would see it, location like that, if it was like lupin or something of that sort. Sorry about banging this if it's like you're really creating a racket here. I haven't used some of these colors, so it's like you have to kind of like really jostle it around, and then you can hear that, that plastic little bead in there kind of become dislodged, so you can start shaking it up like that. I store all my pencils too, by the way. I store them on their sides like that. I just think it's a little bit, it's probably faster to, mix up all that paint than if it was storing this way, then it's separated this way. Okay, so I think it's easier this way. All right. Huh, this violet right here is actually lighter than that pink. All right, I think that will do it there. So the slope is alive with I don't know, blooming wildflowers. We should put some green down there now too, but I don't want to go crazy. All right, now like I said, this area will look a little bit different when spray sealed too. I think what we see is what we get. I think right now at this point in time with that pigment ink right there. But like I said, I'm going to spray seal this. So when you spray seal these areas, this looks really vibrant and rich right now. But these areas like right in here will become a little bit more kind of integrated with the background as far as that texture goes, but you'll still have some of that lighter kind of softness in there, but it'll just be a little bit less so. And these colors in here should get just a little bit brighter and richer from spray sealing like that. You know, it gives it this nice sheen and everything like that. Sometimes doing it too, you can see these different textures in here that really stands out like that. That texture stands out a little bit different too, but when you put this overall kind of coat over this whole thing, you'll still see those textures in there, but it integrates things a little bit more so. And it, like I said, it increases the Marva inks. They tend to not dull out too much when dry though, like some other brands. But this one will get a little bit richer in the end result and whatnot. So I might add a quote to this one somewhere in here. Then we got a lot of space up here. Actually, I don't know where I would put it though. I got like a one-word quote or something like that. I can almost put a quote word stamp right down here, like in gold ink or something like that. But I'll figure that out later if I have space for it and whatnot. I think it might be kind of interesting. We can put like a quote right down here. It says like, bats. Those are the bats right there maybe now. Or, I don't know, whatever. I don't know, I'd have to look for something. Something that has to do with like a sunset sky or something like that. Or maybe that would be on the inside of this card or whatnot. Okay, let's see. I wonder if I have the colors to try to grade. Froggy Fresh, you seem to like you have all the colors of the rainbow there. Mix and match though, if you don't have, you know, certain brands or something like that. If you have like Distress Inks or Mementos or whatever, it could be Stampin' Up or anything like that. If you have about, if you don't have an orange, like a mid-tone orange or something like that, the yellow and pink will do that. So most people have those colors, so you can always mix and match though, like I said. The one thing that's kind of creating that glow in here though is the yellow underneath everything like that, like especially like right in here. And I mentioned this in like another video before, but kind of what we're doing here is we're kind of like laying down these glazes like this. But one of the things about color theory is that colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel, if you just kind of place them right next to each other too, okay, like this, you know, without that white in between, I'm just saying, you know, if it's like this, that space right in there creates a color glow. Okay, so analogous colors create a color glow. So what we're doing is we're actually like laying them down on top of one another. And that's what's kind of creating that color glow in there, because we're like actually layering those colors down like that. So you can work with any color scheme. I think this color scheme right here, or this scenario like this would look really good in like blues and aqua greens or something like that. It would probably look more like a Northern Light type of thing, you know, if we did it in those tones, like if we went off and kind of, like this direction instead, if it was something like this color scheme right here, maybe, you know, and you go into blues and whatnot, you know, something like that would be kind of cool. You know, it would be more predominantly these tones up here, you know, if it was a nighttime type of sky. I think it would look really good with that too, with the Starbirth and this kind of color scheme like this, but kind of leaning more heavily, you know, in this range up top like that. But I don't know, maybe these ones would be too much. Maybe I would just do it with like from that on, you know, there on or something like that, where that one would be the one that would create anything. I think maybe if I added too much of this right down there, it'd look like way too green if you wanted some of those blues in there. But yeah, any color scheme, but try it, you know, you don't need too many, like I said, like even if you had like something like this, you know, that would be good. But I would add that brown at the, you know, the top end of it like that. So I used more colors, okay, but I think, something like this would be sufficient. If you didn't have like this orange in here, but you had a pink, yellow, and pink mixed to form orange, or, overlap to, create it. So you can use any of those types of combinations like that. But see what you have and just kind of line them up and, use any different brands too. Okay. But just anyone watching this, okay, so just, just if you're going for this type of layering like this, it's dye-based inks, so don't mix and match like a dye-based ink and like a, a solvent or like a pigment ink, in terms of that layering on like that. But as far as brand goes, it's not really going to matter what you use. And different inks sometimes, like I said, the viscosity of them is different. So when you get into like the third or fourth layer, if you just find that you're just nothing's happening with it, like I said, just allow the card to sit, for 5 minutes or something like that, and then go back to it. In that meantime, it will have evaporated a little bit and absorbed into the paper, where it's going to be more accepting of additional layers of those colors, to come like that. So, and also, sometimes if you're, layering in colors like this and blending them in, sometimes it's not because you're wiping off the colors. So you just change your technique to more of like a tapping. And then sometimes I lightly kind of spread it around like that, which I had to do on this one because it was just so saturated with, I don't know, whatever, 30 layers of ink. It was a lot. I don't think I went through, I didn't do this, did I? I don't know. I might have went through all those, plus that dark brown too and black. So yeah. So yeah. Just build it up, and those darker ones, whatever colors you stamped out your darker forms in, those are the ones that tend to unify things a little bit more, or a lot more. Okay, things might look, very separated and everything like that, but when you get to, those colors that you stamp the objects in, those are the unifying tones like that. Let's see. So, won't qualify. If not a slim line. Oh, it has to be a slim line. Got it. That's cool. We're going to chop this off right here. I'm going to just chop off an inch off of this one, Linda, to make it a slim line. Or I'll do this. I'll photograph it like this. Here's my slim line submission to, this month's challenge right there. Anyway, all right, folks. Let me see. Was there any questions here? The bling was a good touch, huh? Yeah, it's subtle. If someone like saw this right here, like a still photo, you wouldn't really tell. But do you see the stars up there? Oh yeah, to see the stars like that. I think so. If you have like a gold, Wink of Stella pen or a gold glitter pen, put a couple of little, touches up there with it and bring some of it down here, having that, create all these kind of really reflective types of elements in your scene like that. And it, you know what I mean? It might be one of those things that are really subtle that, most people won't check out, but it's like one of my instructors said, you want to reward people for further inspections. So, someone takes your, you give a card away or something like that or whatnot. And if they're kind of looking at it closer, or they maybe don't realize it at first, but, it might be sitting up on their whatever refrigerator or something like that, but it's catching the light and it's like, oh, I didn't realize that, there's these little gold elements in here or something like that. Oh, and there it is in the sky or something like that too. So, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's like, like with a good movie or something like that, or show that you've seen before. And if you can start kind of seeing different things in it, additional things that you hadn't seen before, hadn't noticed before, it kind of adds to the whatever the, conceptual depth of it or the visual depth of it too, by hiding those little things in there. You know, if I was giving this card away to, Froggy Fresh, I'd put I'd make like this in stars up here. I'd do these little, like a thing where it says F and F there. You know what I mean? Something like that. You can put their initials up in the sky like that in the form of stars. You don't have to make it so obvious. You could, but I think that'd be kind of cool. You put the people's initials or something like that, or if, you're doing a birthday card for a kid, it has, whatever, 7 or something like that, or you put 7 crystals up there, for their 7th birthday or something like that. I did that with this kid. I found out this kid, someone wrote to me or just commented, and they said their 10-year-old son watches my videos, which I was shocked at, that any kid would be watching the vids, because, something like Minecraft and video games are probably a lot more exciting to most kids. But so I stamped him out a card, but I made light beams, okay, coming out of it. And he was 10, so I made 10 light beams. So you do little things like that, which are really fun. So I find that doing those little detail-y types of subtle kind of additions to a card, sometimes those are like the most fun kind of additions to a card and whatnot. Hello, JD. Good to see you. Hope you're enjoying your stamps. If you received them. Let's see. Thanks for watching, Jeannie. Froggy Fresh is going to watch it again. Or I'll do a fast version, like a 5-minute version of it or whatnot, unless you want to really kind of sit through the whole thing. But yeah. So anyways, if anyone just joined in, this is glossy cardstock with die-based inks, something that I, did on most of my scenes in the first many years of this channel. But, I like going back to it periodically. I really have fun using all the other types of surfaces and whatnot. I just use that icy, shardy looking, vinyl holographic on that card from yesterday. That was a blast. But I do like the variation that you can get from just starting off with a white piece of paper and whatnot, and getting those really super saturated tones like that. I think that's one of the fun things about glossy cardstock in particular is the amount of color glows you can kind of achieve through, your transparent dye-based inks and whatnot. So, yeah. All right, folks, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for joining in. And yeah, if you have any questions, drop me a note in the comments section. If you are someone outside of the country, who is from Ontario here, but you know what I mean? If you guys know her too, or Linda, did you ever I don't know, the Canadian stampers here, were you able to find glossy cardstock? I can't remember now if we found that or not, in terms of even if it wasn't local, if you can just order it online, somewhere like that. But I don't know, and we're finding it harder and harder to find some things that were very common stamping accessories, that used to be sold in, so many stamp stores and whatnot. Kind of harder to get these days in source, but yeah, if anyone ever knows, where to get like glossy cardstock, a good source for it, and in whatever country you're in, please note it in the the comments section underneath this video after it posts, and it'd be a good source for whoever's looking for it in those areas. All right, have a great night. Thanks for joining in. Hope to see you in the next live. All right, folks, have a great rest of evening and weekend.